Shall we start with you, Leo? Because Nicola Sturgeon is under real criticism in the Telegraph, isn't she?
Yeah.
For her views on gender laws.
That's right. Well, it's the SNP who run the Parliament in Scotland. They brought through a law, the Gender Reform Bill, that basically makes it much easier to transition. You just say you're a woman, and then you magically, poof, you're a woman. And this has come in. That came in for some criticism. They said it could be exploited by predatory men who might say that they're women to get access to women's spaces such as female prisons. And obviously, we're told, no, you're being transphobic. Well, this would never happen.
But no one. To say used by predatory men to get access, no one's going to deliberately go to prison.
So say, for example, you're convicted of rape. You could then say you're a woman during the court proceedings and then get access to a women's prison where you can presumably, continue offending, or certainly have a nicer time of it than in a male prison. And, we were told, no, you're being transphobic, this would never happen. The next week, it literally happened. So there's a double rapist who now goes by the name of Isla Bryson and has transitioned just by calling himself a woman and putting on a wig. And Nicola Sturgeon has come under a huge amount of flack. He's now been moved from a women's prison to a male prison. So people are saying, well, Nicola, your law doesn't stand up. If you're saying if you've literally moved this man from a women's prison to a man's prison, then this undermines your whole gender ideology law. And so she still refuses to say whether Isla Bryson is a woman or not. And a child can look at Isla Bryson and say, no, that's obviously a bloke. You know what I mean?
No, that's not fair.
No, it is fair.
No, it's not. It's not fair because some people in early stages of transition, it's quite obvious they're transitioning. So that's not fair. It's not to say, because that could apply to a lot of people who are genuinely transitioning.
The thing is, Nicola Sturgeon is in deep doo-doo with this whole subject, isn't she?
Well,
yeah.
And also, the problem is, you use the phrase they're genuinely transitioning. The problem with self-ID law is that there is no transition, there is no process. It's taking out any of the therapy, any of the psychiatric evaluation, any of the medical evaluation, any of the medical process, and simply saying, not even... as a feminist, I don't find gender a useful construct, but there are things that match the two sexes, of which there are two sexes, that we then say, well, the girls wear this and boys wear this. So if you socially transition, you would then dress in the matching gender to the matching sex. But the problem is, and where Nicola Sturgeon is making a fool of herself, frankly, is if she stood up a week... 2 weeks after trying to pass this law, saying, I don't have enough information. That's the phrase she used. I don't have enough information to say whether this is a man or a woman. But self-ID, and what feminists have been warning about, is self-ID is just simply somebody telling you that's what they are.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with self-ID. It's, there are people, and we know from the recent census that 0.5% of people identify as trans, and many of them will go through a process, and we should be as kind as possible and as accommodating as possible, but without impinging on women's rights.
Yeah, well, but how do we use this or talk about this and deal with this in a sensible way that actually doesn't fund is the wrong word, doesn't channel transphobia, because some people will jump on this and
of course they will.
Literally, trans people...
There are going to be...
This is the thing. I mean, it's the biggest, as well as, causing potential harm to women in prisons and women in women's spaces, it harms transgender people, genuine transgender people who are genuinely transgender and put the effort into transitioning. This is predatory men coming in and exploiting the self-ID system. So a move to a self-ID system is a terrible idea. It means, I could just say I'm a woman and I'm magically a woman.
And come in a frock tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't even need to wear a frock.
No,
Keep the beard.
I wear trousers a lot. It doesn't make me a man. I wear skirts sometimes. It doesn't make me more of a woman. And I think we absolutely have to be completely cognizant of the fact that some trans people have a very, very hard time, and there is some very, very nasty things said, and they should not be said. And when they are said by people on my side of the debate around self-ID and gender, I will always call that out. But that doesn't mean that we should then adopt laws that impinge on women's rights and the right to single-sex spaces.
Okay. Yep.
Or indeed the other way around.
Indeed.
Those women who wish to
absolutely.
interesting point, just briefly, Angela, on that one, because the focus is always on men becoming
but
women and not the other way around.
Well, in the law focus, that's right, because women have single-sex spaces because, as we've often said, we know absolutely that not all men are rapists. We just don't know which ones are, and that's why we need protection in single-sex spaces. But there are real issues about the increased amount of young teenage girls who are identifying out of their own sex and saying that they're boys, and that is something that we should also be looking at.
Well, that set off a discussion, didn't it?